What if I told you that the greatest speaker in the history of mankind was a complete failure when he started? That he literally had no natural talent and had to work to achieve any success in front of a crowd. His story is a tribute to how diligence pays off, and more importantly, to how anyone can be a great speaker if they're willing to put in the effort. Demosthenes, the legendary orator, was a scrawny kid who was short-winded and whose voice only carried for a couple of yards. Which sounds like me before steroids. Demosthenes' first speaking experience was somewhat of a successful failure. He won his case, but he was ridiculed for his complete lack of skill. And so he set out to improve himself. To strengthen his lungs, he would recite speeches while running up hills. To get over his stuttering problem, he'd speak with pebbles in his mouth. To get better projection, he would stand by the ocean and speak over the waves. He even made an underground bunker that he'd disappear in for months at a time to practice in, with half of his head shaved so that he'd be too embarrassed to come out. Now, I doubt that any of us would do something that ridiculous in the name of being a better speaker. But the ancient orators did leave behind practical guidelines for anyone to follow in order to be a better speaker. They're called the Canons of Rhetoric, and they are invention, arrangement, style, memory, and delivery. The first canon, invention, deals with finding what to say. This is usually the most difficult part of the process because you got to figure out what your topic's going to be and then do some research on it. And oftentimes, a lot of the information that you find during the research process just doesn't make it out of the cutting room. And there's just not a place for it in the speech. Also, you want to consider who your audience is going to be and then come up with or invent the best means of persuasion. That's the first canon, invention. The second one's arrangement, which is pretty self-explanatory. It deals with how you arrange the material you selected from the first stage. If some of your information is more important than other parts, then you can give that a bigger portion of your speech. And also, when you're splitting up the different sections of your speech, the divisions don't have to be forced. Think of it like a butcher cutting up a chicken. Instead of hacking everything into equal pieces, there are some sections that will naturally divide themselves. In the same way, look for the natural divisions of the topics in your speech and then arrange your speech around those. That's the second canon, arrangement. The third one is style, which is probably the most fun part of writing your speech. You could have the sturdiest house on the block, but if it looks like Captain Hook and Lieutenant Dan put it together, nobody's going to want to look at it. So in the same way, style is essentially decorating your speech, choosing language that creates a vivid mental image that taps into your audience's emotions and imagination. For instance, if you're talking about childhood memories and you mention the scratchiness of your grandfather's beard, chances are you're going to have them thinking of some fond memories from their childhood. And also, this is where your own personal style shines through with the words you choose. For instance, if you like using figures of speech, use figures of speech. Using carefully chosen language that takes the audience on an emotional journey is what the third canon is all about. Style. The fourth canon's memory, and there are two main parts of this. If you can memorize your speech, it'll help it come across as just a natural expression of who you are. And also, you want to give the impression that you actually know more than just what you're saying at the moment. That's the fourth canon, memory. The fifth one is delivery, which deals with, well, how you deliver your message. Now, for example, if your speech is supposed to energize an audience, but you deliver it with the enthusiasm of an NPR host, you're going to lose some credibility. Your body language, your gestures, eye contact, voice fluctuation, and even the pauses that you put in your speech play a tremendous part of how you're received. Of all the other canons, it's this one, delivery, that's the one aspect that can lift a mediocre speech with a great performance over a great speech with a mediocre performance. My fellow orators, these are the 5 canons of rhetoric: invention, arrangement, style, memory, and delivery. The tools to help you find what to say and how to say it. And so the next time that you need an explosive performance, bring out the cannons and blow the crowd away.